Hey guys, welcome back to GX Stories Sleeping. Tonight we head into the murky smoke and paranoia of one of history's strangest fears, witches. You're not floating in a dreamy fantasy though. You're ankle deep in a muddy medieval village, and there's a crowd gathering. It smells like wet straw, sweat, and panic. Someone saw you picking herbs in the woods. Someone else says their cow got sick after you walked by. And just like that, you're the star of tonight's bonfire. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in a world where science doesn't mean lab coats and research grants, it means trial and error, usually with more error. The line between superstition and medicine is blurrier than your vision after drinking a questionable village ale. If someone falls sick, it isn't about bacteria. It's your fault. Your weird, lumpy bread that grew some green fuzz, clearly cursed. And this isn't just small town drama. Across Europe, particularly from the 1400s through the 1600s, entire communities got swept up in what scholars now describe as moral panic, fueled by theological rigidity. Basically, everyone lost their minds in the name of God and fear. But let's rewind a bit. In the early Middle Ages, people actually believed magic existed. Not metaphorically, but like really real. Charms for fertility, spells for crops, love potions brewed under moonlight. That kind of thing wasn't just tolerated, it was part of daily life. And then, gradually, the church stepped in, shifting the narrative. All that cozy folk magic, suddenly, it had a new sponsor, the devil. This shift was slow and chilling. It wasn't one decree, but a series of them over centuries, reclassifying harmless rituals as invitations to hell. By the late medieval period, people genuinely believed witches were meeting Satan in the woods, kissing his feet, and using toad spit to kill babies. Yes, that's an actual accusation from trial records. Meanwhile, moldy rye bread, full of ergot, a fungus that causes hallucinations, could spark entire outbreaks of supposed witchcraft. Imagine half the village tripping on fungal toxins and deciding that Mildred the basket weaver is definitely levitating again. A fringe theory even suggests some of these mass bewitchments were really just bad bread and group hysteria. But that kind of nuance doesn't fly when people are scared. Fear needs a face, and guess what? It often looked like yours. The worst part? There wasn't a consistent definition of what a witch actually was. Some areas emphasized women making herbal remedies, others focused on night-flying broomstick riders. In a sleepy Swiss village, it might be a birthmark. In parts of Germany, it might be having a cat, especially a black one, or just being grumpy, or living alone, or looking a bit different. And while the idea of witches riding broomsticks may sound fun now, something you might see in a Halloween store, in medieval Europe, it wasn't a costume. It was a death sentence. So, there you are. You woke up thinking today was just another day tending your goat and watering the cabbages. But now, the priest is frowning at you. The baker's daughter is whispering. A guy you don't even know is carving wood stakes in the corner. You haven't done anything, but your fate's already sliding toward smoke and fire. You're not exactly sure how things turned this strange. Just yesterday, you helped deliver a calf and made a poultice for a neighbor's sprained ankle. Today, they're avoiding eye contact and muttering prayers. You don't feel different, but everyone around you does. And in this world, where invisible forces lurk behind every stub toe and sour milk, that makes you very, very dangerous. You see, in medieval Europe, misfortune didn't just happen. There had to be a reason, and more importantly, someone to blame. A storm destroying your barley crop? That's not random weather. It's malevolent intent. Your child suddenly comes down with fever? Satan must be at work. And someone nearby invited him in. This was an era steeped in a religious worldview so intense, it could boil over at any moment. The devil wasn't just lurking in the shadows. He was thought to be actively recruiting people, mostly women, to do his bidding. And that recruitment? Well, apparently it happened at night. In the woods, during eerie, torchlit ceremonies that only seemed to happen in the minds of paranoid clergymen. What's scarier is that the devil didn't need much to work with. Did you have a dream that felt too vivid? That might have been a demon whispering in your sleep. Ever sleepwalk? That's suspicious. Even liking animals too much, especially owls, toads, or cats, was dangerous. The medieval mindset connected every tiny misstep to something larger, something cosmic. Satan was always watching. And if he wasn't, your neighbors definitely were. Theologians of the time started building an elaborate mythos around witchcraft. It wasn't just about casting curses. Oh no. It involved pacts signed in blood, ritual infanticide, cannibalism, and, you guessed it, doing very inappropriate things with the devil himself. These descriptions were often so absurd that modern historians debate whether anyone truly believed them. Some argue these tales were more propaganda than fact, a tool for religious control and social conformity. Still, the people of the time bought into it, at least enough to keep the accusations coming. And the scariest part? You didn't have to believe in the devil to get accused of consorting with him. You just had to be suspected by someone who did. The church's growing obsession with rooting out heresy only made things worse. Witchcraft was no longer some backwoods folklore. It was now an organized crime syndicate. According to leading thinkers, a scholar named Heinrich Kramer, who will come up later, and boy, will you hate him, was convinced witches were undermining Christendom itself. So here you are, walking home with your basket of turnips, when someone catches you humming a tune. Too cheerful, they think, too confident. That little song might just be a spell. And before you know it, word spreads. You're in league with dark forces. There's a fringe theory that mass accusations were a way to control social outsiders. Widows, healers, single women, the elderly, or just the unlucky. And while the academic jury's still out, there's a grim logic to it. What better way to maintain order than by channeling fear into the nearest vulnerable target? You might think you'd defend yourself with logic. Tell them you're innocent, that the devil isn't real, that you're a good person. But in a world this saturated with superstition, reason is as effective as shouting into a thunderstorm. By now, villagers are gathering outside your door. Some carry torches. One holds a rope. You feel the heat of their eyes, their judgment, their certainty. And maybe the devil isn't real. But tonight, you're starting to wish he were. At least then you'd have someone powerful on your side. The sky's growing darker, and not just because of the hour. Clouds roll in like bruises over the hills, casting long shadows across the crooked cottages and twisting trees. The village square is filling, slowly but surely. You hear the clatter of boots, the hush of whispers, the distant bark of a dog that seems to know something bad is coming. Someone knocks at your door, or maybe it's more of a bang. You don't answer fast enough, so they come in anyway. A priest with sharp eyes and a too confident gait steps into your home. Behind him, two village men with hands like tree roots and expressions like stone. They say they're here for a test, to prove your innocence. Sure, that always works out. It's called trial by ordeal, and the one they're bringing up, the ordeal of water, also known with unsettling simplicity as the swimming test. Here's how it works. They tie your hands and feet, haul you out to a body of water, preferably cold, murky, and dramatic, and toss you in. If you sink, congratulations. You're innocent. You'll probably drown, but your soul is saved. If you float, that means the water, seen as pure and holy, has rejected your evil self. You're guilty, and you'll be hauled out to face a much more permanent punishment. Yes, really. This was a standard practice in many parts of Europe, especially from the 15th to 17th centuries. Floating wasn't a survival advantage. It was damning evidence. This might be one of a history's cruelest catch-22s. You can't win. You can only sink or swim. And either way, it's over. What's worse, this method wasn't even consistent. Some towns used it, others didn't. Some believed it too harsh, others not harsh enough. There's ongoing scholarly debate about whether the ordeal was more symbolic or seriously believed to be divinely guided. But for you, right now, it's very real. And it's not just about drowning. There's the humiliation, the cold water soaking into your bones, the crowd gathered like it's market day, the whispers about your fate already being decided. Because, let's be honest, they're not testing you. They're putting on a show. A grim piece of street theater with one role. You, the villain. Some accounts suggest people even tampered with the results, pulling the rope tighter, weighting your clothes, or claiming you floated when you clearly didn't. Not that anyone would believe your version of events. Once you're accused, the game is rigged. It's hard to think, shivering on the muddy riverbank, wrapped in damp linen, your wrists raw from rope. You want to plead with someone, anyone, but everyone's staring at you like they're waiting for proof of something they already believe. A fringe historical note? Some towns gave you a bonus chance after the test. If you sank and were fished out before drowning, you might still be tortured for a confession. Because, hey, water doesn't lie. But neither do red-hot irons or interrogation chambers, apparently. Now you're standing there, roped and ready, and the priest murmurs a prayer. Not for you. No, you're not the one he's trying to save. He's praying the devil leaves your body, as if you're a jar that can be emptied. Then comes the shove. Cold. So cold. Water floods your ears, your eyes, your nose. You flail, then try not to. You hold still. Maybe stillness will mean mercy. Above you, the crowd leans forward. You can't tell if you're floating. You can't feel anything anymore. But someone's already shouting. Guilty. You're hauled out of the water, shivering and sputtering, not sure which part hurts more, your lungs or your pride. They say you floated. Maybe you did. Maybe you were too terrified to sink. Maybe your linen shift puffed up just enough to hold you above the surface. Doesn't matter now. The judgment's made, and the crowd is nodding like they've just confirmed what they already knew. Now it's time for the paperwork. Not literal paperwork. This is medieval Europe, after all. But there's a process, in the loosest possible sense. You're not being left to the mob just yet. No, you'll go through the proper channels, if you can call them that. And that means turning to a text that will soon become your worst nightmare. Enter the Malleus Maleficarum. You can't read Latin, but the man in the robe flipping through the worn pages can. Written by Heinrich Kramer, a German inquisitor with some serious personal issues, and a flair for fear-mongering, this Witch Hammer is the definitive witch-hunting manual of the late 15th century. It reads like a fever dream disguised as theology. Think of it as a medieval mix of religious doctrine, courtroom drama, and horror fiction, all wrapped up in a smug, self-justifying bow. The Malleus argues that witches are real. Women are especially susceptible to the devil's influence, and torture is a perfectly acceptable means of getting the truth. Its logic is beautifully circular. If you confess, you're guilty. If you don't confess, that's proof you're even more guilty. Because witches lie. That's the kind of airtight reasoning you're up against. And it wasn't just some fringe pamphlet. For over a century, it shaped the legal and cultural framework for witch trials across Europe. Some modern scholars still argue about whether Kramer was taken seriously by the church at large. His contemporaries didn't all love him, but his book was reprinted dozens of times. People ate it up. You'd think they were reading bedtime stories, not execution guides. According to Kramer, signs of witchcraft include things like causing impotence, spoiling crops, making people dance uncontrollably, and, you'll love this, having opinions. Especially if you're a woman. There's a particular venom in the text reserved for midwives, herbalists, and anyone who seems too confident in public. There's also a fun section about how witches can fly, but only if they grease their broomsticks with baby fat, which, let's be honest, sounds more like a hallucinatory fever dream than a legal argument. But again, logic isn't the point here. Fear is. And here's a truly strange tidbit. Kramer once held a public sermon accusing a group of nuns of being sexually obsessed with him and, therefore, witches. The church actually found him unfit for duty, briefly, but the damage was already done. His book spread further than his shame ever did. So now, as you sit in a damp cell, because yes, you're officially a prisoner, the man assigned to your case is leafing through the Malleus, muttering about demons and evidence. He's not looking at you like a person. You're a case study now. An example. A problem to be solved with ropes, fire, or holy water. The smell of mildew mixes with something sharp, burned herbs maybe, or incense. Your stomach churns. You know what's coming next. You'd like to believe that truth and innocence still matter. But when the most popular manual on witchcraft literally says all witches deny being witches, Your hope starts to dry up like the straw on the floor beneath you. You hear her before you see her. The sharp click of wooden shoes, the soft rustle of linen skirts, and the murmuring of prayers that sound more like poetry than devotion. She's older, with streaks of white in her hair, and hands that look like they've kneaded bread, delivered babies, and healed wounds. You've seen her before, maybe when your cousin was ill, or when someone's wife went into labor at dawn. She's a midwife, a healer, the kind of woman people whisper about when things go well, and blame when things go badly. And now she's here in the cell next to yours. In the shifting tide of medieval witch hunts, women like her are the first to drown. Midwives, herbalists, and widows were some of the most common targets. Why? Because they knew things. Because they operated outside the male-dominated structures of medicine and religion. Because they spent time with bodies, birth, death, and the messy, mystical parts of life that made people nervous. In an age where medical understanding was roughly on par with guesswork and prayer, a woman who could heal with plants seemed suspiciously powerful. She didn't need permission to treat people. She didn't charge like the barber surgeons. And worse, she knew how to ease pain, and how to end it. Some whispered that midwives smothered infants or offered secret abortions, and in the warped theology of the time, that was enough to label them agents of Satan. Never mind that most of them were saving lives while others stood around arguing about leeches. There's a grim irony here. Women who brought life into the world were punished for it. The church didn't like what it couldn't control, and neither did the town councils, eager to show moral righteousness while keeping costs down. Better to blame the healer when a mother dies in childbirth than to admit your community has no idea what it's doing. One strange detail some trials mention: accused witches often had knowledge of herbs used to reduce fevers or stimulate labor. Sounds useful today? Back then, that was proof of supernatural involvement. You glance over at the midwife. She's whispering to herself, perhaps a prayer, or maybe she's just trying to steady her nerves. You wonder how many babies she's delivered, how many times she's risked her life for the sake of someone else's. And now, here she is, waiting for her name to be read aloud in front of a tribunal that won't listen. There's a scholar's theory that witch hunts were a systemic attack on female authority. In a society where women had few rights, any form of influence, even the ability to ease suffering, became suspect. The midwife wasn't just someone useful, she was someone dangerous. And now, you're next to her, sharing air, fear, silence. You don't talk. What would you say? There's no comfort here, just two women waiting to be turned into symbols of everything the world hates and fears. Somewhere above, a bell tolls. Maybe it's for evening prayers, or maybe it's for someone else's execution. You can't tell anymore. The hours blend together like smoke. Outside, life goes on. Bread is baked, children play, men drink, and inside this cell, two lives sit on pause, caught in the jaws of a superstition machine that grinds slowly, but always to the same end. You think about the irony. The only person who might have saved you from this fevered nightmare is now a prisoner just like you. The door creaks open again. This time, the man who steps in doesn't have the nervous look of a villager or the stiff collar of a priest. He's dressed in dark wool, a thick belt around his waist, and boots with iron buckles. His hands are gloved, not to keep them warm, but to keep them clean. You've seen men like this before, though never up close. He's the torturer, or as they prefer to say, the examiner. And he's not here to ask questions. He's here to get answers. You're pulled from your cell and brought down a corridor that smells like sweat and old firewood. There's a room at the end, lit by flickering torches filled with instruments you don't recognize. At first glance, it could be a carpenter's shop. Then you look closer. Those aren't tools for building. They're tools for breaking. A table with leather straps, a pulley with ropes hanging like vines, a heavy wheel with thick iron spokes, the rack, the thumb screws, the iron boot, all arranged like some twisted showroom. The torturer nods without emotion. You're seated, tied, questioned. They start soft. Did you ever speak with the devil? Do you fly at night? Do you have a mark on your body that won't bleed? When you say no, because of course you say no, they frown, as if that was the wrong answer. Then the questioning begins again. Only this time, they turn the wheel. Just a little. Pain blooms in your joints. Your shoulders stretch. Your knees tremble. You want to scream, but you also want to be brave. Maybe if you hold out long enough, they'll stop. Spoiler, they don't. In most witch trials, confession was the ultimate goal. Guilt wasn't proven with evidence. It was extracted, word by agonizing word. Torture wasn't seen as cruelty. It was purification, a way to free the accused from Satan's grip. Some of the accused confessed after minutes. Others held out for hours. A few never broke at all, at least not before their bodies did. A famous account from Bamberg, Germany, tells of one woman who confessed under torture to riding a flying goat, kissing a toad, and sinking ships with a single stare. She didn't believe any of it, of course, but when your limbs are coming out of their sockets, you'll say whatever it takes to make it stop. One fringe theory suggests that some accused witches began to believe their confessions were real, blending dreams, guilt, and pain into false memories. Imagine being tortured so badly that fantasy becomes more believable than truth. And here you are, stuck in the middle of that impossible tension. If you confess, they kill you. If you don't, they torture you. Eventually, they'll probably do both. Your interrogators keep asking the same questions. Sometimes they throw in details, nudging you toward the right story. Was it a black cat or a goat? Was it your left hand or your right that you used to sign the devil's book? You have no idea what they're talking about. But eventually, through clenched teeth and burning tears, you begin to repeat back their words. Yes, a cat. Left hand, a book. They lean in. The scribe writes it all down with a smug flourish. You've just confessed to being a witch. Not because it's true, but because this was never about truth. You're back in your cell now, your body aching in ways you didn't know were possible. Your wrists throb. Your shoulders are on fire, and every breath feels like it has to be negotiated. You can't tell how much time has passed. Maybe a day, maybe two. The torchlight never changes, and no one speaks to you unless it's to drag you out for questioning, or worse. Then you hear a voice outside. Someone's laughing. It's not the cruel cackle you've come to expect, but a casual, almost cheerful sound. A man strolls into view, tall and smug, wearing a leather doublet and a hat with a feather that screams, "I'm important and I know it." He doesn't look like a priest, or a judge, or a torturer, but he smells like opportunity and money. He's what they call a witch finder, and he's here on business. You see, by the late 16th century, especially in places like England, Scotland, and parts of Germany, witch hunting wasn't just a religious crusade, it was an industry. Witch finders were freelancers, paid by local governments or towns to root out witches. And get this, they were usually paid per witch. Yes, per head. Like a grim harvest. One of the most infamous examples is Matthew Hopkins, the self-proclaimed witch finder general of England. He operated during the English Civil War, a time when fear and chaos were at an all-time high. Hopkins used clever tricks to prove someone was a witch, like pricking their skin with needles to find the witch's mark, or tying them to chairs and watching to see if they floated. He and his associates allegedly caused over 100 executions in just a few years. It was a business model with a built-in incentive. The more witches you find, the more you earn. It didn't take much imagination to see how easily that could spiral, especially when you add in that fringe detail. Sometimes towns would feed names to witchfinders in advance, pointing them toward unpopular neighbors, business rivals, or people who just didn't quite fit in. You don't know how much this man is being paid, but it's probably more than you've ever seen in one place. And judging by the confident way he walks, he expects to be paid soon. He has a routine, clearly. He talks to the guards. He consults the priest. Then he comes to your door and looks at you like you're already halfway to the pyre. You're not a person to him. You're evidence, merchandise, and maybe the third name he needs to fill a quota. There's something deeply unnerving about the way he smiles. Not evil, just professional. Like he's doing a job. A tidy little service with a side of torture. Some historians argue that these witchfinders genuinely believed in their work. Others think they were opportunists exploiting mass hysteria. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. After all, belief and profit aren't mutually exclusive, especially when belief justifies the profit. The man jots something in a leather notebook. Then he points to the midwife in the next cell. She's next. His day isn't over. You close your eyes and try not to breathe too loudly. Maybe if you're quiet, he'll forget you. But people like him don't forget. They build their careers on faces like yours. It only takes one voice, one whisper in the dark, one jealous look, one complaint shouted after too many drinks. That's all it takes to set the whole machine in motion. You think back to how this all started. It wasn't the priest. It wasn't the torturer. It wasn't even the witch finder. It was a neighbor. Someone who saw you picking herbs. Or maybe someone whose pig died mysteriously and needed a reason. Or maybe, just maybe, it was someone who didn't like the way you looked at them. And now the accusations are piling up like firewood. Because once one person points a finger, others follow. Quickly. Desperately. People want to be on the right side of this. This is the snowball effect. And medieval towns were built on tight suspicion. Once a witch panic begins, it doesn't stop with one unlucky soul. The accused starts naming names. Sometimes because they're tortured into it. Sometimes because it's the only way to delay their fate. You might mention that strange woman who lives near the woods. Or the man who limps and never comes to church. It's not betrayal. It's survival. This is where it spirals. One accusation leads to 5. 5 lead to 20. In the town of Würzburg, Germany, more than 900 people were executed over the course of a few years in the 1620s. That's not just panic. That's administrative mass murder. Entire families were wiped out. Children, too. Anyone remotely connected to someone accused was suddenly under suspicion. Some towns even kept ledgers of names. Little lists of people to be watched. Once you were on the list, you rarely came off it. Even if you were cleared, the stain stayed. People watched what you wore, who you talked to, how your garden grew. A failing harvest or a stillborn calf could bring your name right back to the top. You overhear guards discussing a new name today. A man who refused to testify, another woman who cried too loudly in church, a child who talks to birds. One of them laughs. She'll confess by morning. It's not cruelty, it's routine. What's eerie is how quickly everyone seems to adapt. The town square becomes a stage. The crowds gather like they're attending a fair. Parents bring their children. Food vendors set up carts. Execution days turn into dark festivals of reassurance. We're safe because they're gone. Some scholars suggest this snowballing effect was more about social control than actual fear of witches. A way to purge the unruly and keep the community in line. Fringe behaviors, loud women, people who couldn't pay their debts, they were easy targets. A convenient excuse wrapped in religious fervor. And the scariest part? Once the panic started, no one was safe. Even the accusers. Some witch finders ended up accused themselves when their lists got too long or their fees too high. Others were run out of town when things got too dark. As if it wasn't already. You lie back against the cold wall of your cell and listen. Someone new is screaming down the hall. Another person caught in the storm you helped set in motion, even if you didn't mean to. You want to believe that it will end, that someone will say, "Wait, this is madness." But not yet. Not tonight. The snowball's still rolling. There's no sunrise in here. No birdsong, no color, no gentle shift from night into morning. Just the slow drip of water from somewhere overhead, and the sharp squeak of rusted hinges whenever the guards pass by. You've stopped trying to keep track of days. All you know is that you haven't seen the sky since they dragged you out for the swimming test. Your cell isn't even a proper room. It's a dugout hole. Maybe once meant for storing root vegetables, now repurposed for people like you. The walls are earthen, damp, and crumbly, pressed in tight like they're trying to smother you. The ceiling is low, the air thick and sour. You sleep on straw that's more mildew than mattress. There are rats. You hear them at night, scampering along the edge of your thoughts. This is the holding place. Not for a few hours, but sometimes for weeks, or even months. As the court prepares its case, it's not meant to keep you alive. It's meant to keep you until you're no longer needed. And no, there are no toilets. Just a bucket. If you're lucky, it gets emptied once a day. If not, well, you try not to think about it. Prisoners in medieval witch trials weren't given fair treatment, not even by the loose standards of the time. You're not a guest of the state. You're an inconvenience waiting to be dealt with. There are stories, some from actual trial records, of accused witches being kept in standing room only dungeons. chained to walls, or left naked in the cold. One prisoner in 17th century Scotland was reportedly kept in witch's branks, a metal cage that fit over her head with a bit of iron shoved into her mouth to keep her from casting spells through speech. She was held for months like that. Some fringe accounts suggest that witch prisons were intentionally placed near pigsties, sewage channels, or bogs, as part of a deliberate effort to weaken the devil's influence by humiliating his so-called servant. Whether or not this was official policy, it's disturbingly plausible. You're given a crust of bread now and then, maybe a mug of watery ale. If you're lucky, you keep it down. If you're not, the mold growing in it might give you hallucinations. Ironically, the very thing that could be used as proof of your guilt. The midwife hasn't spoken in 2 days. She just stares at the wall, eyes hollow. You wonder how many others she's seen come and go. Women like you, accused and forgotten. You want to talk to her, but words feel heavy and useless. At some point, a guard tosses something into your cell. A bundle of rags? No, a new prisoner. He lands hard on the floor, groaning, blood on his face. You don't recognize him, but he looks like someone who used to laugh in the market. Now he's just another body in the dark. You begin to notice how quiet everything has become. No more crying, no more shouting. Just slow movements, shallow breathing, the sound of people shrinking inside themselves. There's an academic debate about whether these conditions were intentional punishment or simply neglect. The answer might be both. Either way, the result is the same. You're broken long before you reach the pyre. This isn't a prison. It's a waiting room for death, and every hour you spend in it makes you more likely to confess, to give them what they want, to say anything that might earn you a faster end. The weather has shifted. You can't see it, but you can feel it in the way the air thickens, in the tension among the guards, in the quiet way they move. Something's brewing. Maybe a storm. Maybe something worse. They come for you before dawn, when your muscles are still stiff from the cold, and your breath fogs in the stale air. No words are exchanged. You're just dragged up the steps and into the light for the first time in what feels like years. And outside, everything is different. The village you once knew, small, dull, and predictable, is now a stage set for fear. Torches line the street even though the sun's rising. Townsfolk gather with arms crossed, children press close to parents' legs, all of them watching like it's market day and you're the main attraction. Welcome to mass panic. You aren't the only one. Beside you, others are lined up, some pale and broken, others wide-eyed and silent. A few are openly weeping. You all stand in a line in the square while someone reads out charges in a booming voice. You're too tired to flinch when your name is spoken. The list is long. Cursing livestock, causing hailstorms, making someone's teeth fall out. One woman is accused of transforming into a hare. A man is said to have turned beer sour by whistling near the barrels. Sounds ridiculous, but no one's laughing, because this is mass hysteria at work. When fear takes over a community, logic leaves the building. Something strange happens in the mind when people are scared. Tiny things become enormous. Coincidences become conspiracies, and neighbors become enemies. You see it on their faces. The same people who used to trade with you, ask you for help, share bread with you. They're staring at you like you've grown horns. And once hysteria takes root, it spreads fast. In one town in France in 1459, the sudden death of a merchant's wife led to a chain of accusations that roped in 25 women and 2 monks. None of them were connected, but the fear tied them together like kindling. In the German town of Trier, by the end of the 1500s, witch trials had consumed so many people that entire professions were wiped out. Teachers, council members, even judges. Panic didn't care about your title. Once it began, it ran through the population like wildfire. You glance around and realize there's no one here to stop it. No rational voice of reason. No one standing up to say, this is madness. Because those who did, they were accused too. That's one of the eeriest truths. Sometimes, the only way to survive a witch hunt is to participate in it. People protected themselves by turning others in. If you pointed the finger, you were safe, at least for a while. There's a man standing near the edge of the crowd. You recognize him. He once sold you apples. Now he's staring at your bound hands like they confirm everything he's been told. The town crier finishes reading. A silence falls. The priest begins a blessing. Or maybe it's a curse. You can't tell anymore. A sudden gust of wind stirs the square. Someone gasps. A child cries. Thunder rumbles in the distance. Just bad weather? Or did someone forget that a storm in this world can be an accusation too? You don't know who will be next, but you know it won't stop here. Not until someone decides to burn the fear out. You wake up to bells, not the gentle kind that call for worship, but deep, resonant clangs that shake the stone walls and make your ribs buzz. Execution day. You feel it before anyone says it out loud. It's in the hurried footsteps of the guards, the solemnity of the priest's voice as he mumbles Latin just outside your cell. They give you water, not out of kindness, just enough so your throat isn't too dry to speak. Not that your words will matter. Today isn't about what you say. It's about what they say you are. They dress you in rough linen, scratchy and torn, and they don't bother to fix the binding on your wrists. The rope is tight enough to bruise. A cart waits outside, flanked by soldiers. You're loaded in with the others. 5, 6, maybe more. One girl can't be older than 13. She stares straight ahead, as if she's already left her body behind. As the cart rattles over cobblestones, you notice the crowd lining the streets. They're not booing or throwing things. That would be too easy. Instead, they watch in silence. Some hold rosaries. Others clutch their children's hands. Some look away entirely, as if not seeing it makes it less real. You pass under banners flapping in the wind. One reads, Fiat Justitia, let justice be done. You almost laugh. Almost. The square has been transformed. A platform stands in the center, high and ominous, with wooden poles lashed upright and bundles of dry branches stacked around them. The smell of pitch hangs heavy in the air, sharp and oily. You know what that means. They've prepared the firewood. The executioner waits near the platform, his face covered by a hood. His axe hangs at his side. Not for you, thankfully. You're not noble enough for a beheading. Fire is the common end for common folk. This is the culmination of the hunt. Public execution. Not just punishment, but a warning. A performance of purity. They're not just killing you, they're purging evil. And everyone has a front row seat. In places like Bamberg, Trier, and Salem, these events drew crowds. The accused were marched in. A priest would offer final absolution, provided you confessed again, loudly, so the crowd could hear your repentance. Whether you meant it didn't matter. They just wanted the script. You're pushed toward the stake. A friar holds out a crucifix. You kiss it. Why? You're not sure. Maybe because some part of you still hopes there's a heaven. Maybe just because it gives them less reason to make this worse. A fringe account from eastern France tells of a woman who sang as the flames climbed her dress. Another woman reportedly cursed her accusers until her voice was swallowed by smoke. Some burned silently, others screamed. Some were strangled first, if the executioner was merciful or paid. Your ankles are tied to the post. The wood creaks as you shift. There's no ceremony, no grand announcement, just the quiet crack of a torch being lit. The flames lick the edge of the kindling. You smell burning hair, someone sobbing, a child asking a question you can't make out. This is how it ends. Not with a trial, not with truth, but with a crowd, a lie, and a match. Above you, the smoke spirals into the sky. The sky turns gray as smoke begins to thicken, and the heat creeps up your legs like a whisper becoming a scream. But just as the flames seem ready to seal your fate, a shout rings out. Not divine intervention, just confusion. A messenger, breathless, clutching a rolled parchment, pushes through the crowd. The judge unrolls it, reads, and frowns. Words pass between men in robes and armor. The crowd murmurs like a sea of bees stirred from sleep. The fire is snuffed out, for now. They don't untie you. They just cut the ropes from the stake and throw you, scorched and coughing, back into the cart. You aren't dead, but you aren't saved either. You're being transferred. Why? Because there's a higher court in a bigger town that wants to review your case. Maybe they want to keep up appearances. Maybe the local judge got nervous. Or maybe, just maybe, Someone is starting to realize that the whole system is eating itself alive. During the height of the witch craze, some towns did begin to push back. In the Holy Roman Empire, entire communities were devastated by the frenzy. Tax revenues dropped, fields went untilled, even clergy began to disappear into the flames. Eventually, someone high enough up the food chain realized, if everyone's guilty, who's left to govern? So now, bruised and half-burnt, you find yourself bumping along a muddy road toward a new prison, in a town with the stone walls and sharper quills. They don't care about your innocence either, but they do care about paperwork. This new court likes rules. You're introduced to scribes, not soldiers, men who speak in Latin and French and German, all in the same breath. They quote laws. They write everything down. Every twitch of your hand, every cough. It feels no less terrifying, but it's quieter, more sterile, like fear wrapped in velvet. You're brought before a magistrate who barely looks up from his scroll. He speaks through an interpreter. They ask you to recount your confession. Again, you hesitate, you want to take it back. You want to scream that it wasn't true, that you were in pain, confused, desperate, but you can already see it in their eyes. Recanting is dangerous. A confession is useful. A retraction is a problem. Some people did try. They claimed their words were forced, that they never meant it, but it rarely worked. The court would simply accuse them of lying to cover up their pact with the devil, so they'd torture them again. This time for lying about their confession. It's a feedback loop of horror, a trap with no door. A famous case in 17th century Fulda saw a priest named Balthazar Nuss accused after a sweeping witch purge he helped lead. Turns out executing hundreds of people tends to create enemies. Eventually, even he was arrested. Turns out, once fear starts rolling downhill, it doesn't stop at just the commoners. That's the truth no one wants to admit. Witch hunts eat everyone. They don't purify society, they rot it from the inside. But by the time anyone realizes, the damage is already done. You're led away again, back to another cell. This one's slightly cleaner, but no less hopeless. There's a window with bars and just enough light to remind you what you've lost. And there in the distance, you see smoke rising. Not from a chimney, from another pyre. You may have escaped the flames once, but in this system, there are always more trials, always more ropes, always more wood. The days blur together. In this new prison, stone walls instead of mud, straw mattress instead of bare ground. It feels almost like luxury. Almost. But comfort means nothing when you know what's waiting on the other side of the door. You're given paper, quill, ink. You're told to write your confession in your own hand. It's meant to prove that you're of sound mind, that the words aren't just something a guard scribbled for the records. You hesitate, quill, trembling. Write the wrong thing, and it's heresy. Refuse to write, and it's defiance. Either way, the rope tightens. It's strange, this new phase, this theater of civility. You meet men who claim to care about justice. They offer you food, nod thoughtfully, ask if you've reflected, but underneath their silk sleeves and careful words, you can feel it. They aren't here to save you. They're here to document you. In some of the larger courts, like those in Trier, Bamberg, Würzburg, the process was elaborate. Records were meticulously kept, testimonies copied and signed, seals pressed into wax. One fringe tidbit, some scribes even added little personal notes in the margins, observations about your appearance, your tone, your attitude, not for the court, just for each other. Little flourishes in the machinery of death. And there's a particular danger in these quiet trials. They feel less violent, but the outcome is the same. The civility is a mask. The Inquisitor leans forward today, hands folded like a school teacher. You've admitted to casting curses. Do you now repent before God? You nod. Will you reaffirm it under oath? You hesitate. Behind him, someone's already dipping the quill again, ready to record your answer. There's a debate among historians, whether these confessions should be seen as valid or tragic. Were the accused manipulated or simply resigned? Probably both. Imagine being trapped for weeks, even months, your body worn down, your mind slowly unwinding like thread. At some point, surrender starts to look like peace. You speak, quietly, measured, saying only what they need to hear. The Inquisitor nods. Very good, he says, like you've passed an exam. And just like that, your verdict is set. Not guilty, not innocent, just condemned. It's not today. They tell you that. You'll be held until the next appropriate date. There's always a backlog of bodies. They'll burn you when the town's ready for the show. Back in your cell, you try to find meaning in something. A breeze through the window, a bird you can barely see on the rooftop beyond the courtyard, a prayer that still tastes like hope. Some accused witches found strange peace in these final days. They were allowed last rites. Some were even given a priest to sit with them, to listen, to pretend this all still made sense. One woman in England, Agnes Waterhouse, was said to have confessed to keeping a talking cat named Satan. She died at peace, apparently. Whether that peace was real or just what people said to justify it, no one knows. You lie down, not to sleep, but just to be, to exist a little longer. Outside, another cart rumbles by, wheels grinding against the stone. Someone new, someone next. You're no longer afraid of the flames. You're afraid of the waiting, because the fire is final. But this endless pause, it's worse. You're dreaming of water when the door opens again. Not the cold pond where they tested your guilt. No, this dream is different. Warm water, rippling gently, washing over your hands. Clean, soft, almost kind. But it vanishes in an instant. You're pulled upright, your wrists shackled again. Though there's barely any need, you can't fight anymore. Today is the day. They dress you in white, not a symbol of purity. A contrast. Fire burns brighter against pale cloth. You're paraded through the streets once more, but this time the crowd doesn't cheer or gasp. They just watch, eyes glazed, mouths closed. People have seen too many of these to pretend it still feels like justice. The stake stands waiting in the center of the square, unchanged since last time. The same wood, the same bundles of kindling, but now there's no interruption, no last-minute messenger galloping in with a reprieve. Just you, the fire, and a performance so old, it's practically ritual. And yet, something's different. This time, you look back. You scan the crowd, not for pity, not for help, but for understanding. There's a girl in the third row, clutching her mother's apron, wide-eyed and silent. A boy peering around a barrel, his face pale and curious. And for 1 second, you wonder, will they remember? That's the thing about witch hunts. They're designed to erase, to burn not only the body, but the story. You're not meant to be remembered as a person. You're supposed to become a symbol, a warning, a cautionary tale. But history doesn't always cooperate. Centuries later, scholars will read your trial records and ask questions. They'll notice contradictions in the testimony, absurdity in the accusations. One might write a thesis about how women like you were targeted during times of famine and war. Another might trace the pattern of your community. Who accused whom, when, and why. They'll argue over details. Was the court corrupted by local politics? Were the confessions influenced by sleep deprivation? Did the judge truly believe in witches? Or just need someone to blame? One fringe theory will suggest your case was part of a land dispute, that your family's small parcel of property was eyed by a neighbor who stood to gain everything from your conviction. It wouldn't be the first time, but those debates are far away. In your world, the torch is already lit. A friar steps forward, offers a crucifix. You take it, not out of faith, but out of defiance. If they're going to burn you, you'll at least go with your spine intact. And then, the flames. It starts at your feet, slow, then faster. The wood crackles, smoke curls upward. The heat rises like a living thing. You don't scream. Not because it doesn't hurt, God it does, but because the crowd wants you to. So you keep your silence, because that, in the end, is the last piece of power they can't take. You fade into fire, and they go home, telling themselves they've made the town cleaner, safer, purer. But something stays behind. A flicker, a memory, a girl's wide eyes, a boy's pale face, and a name, whispered when no one's listening. The fire's long gone now. So are the crowds. The torches, the ropes, the official scrolls with their red wax seals. They've all been cleared away. The square has returned to its usual routine. Market stalls, gossip, chickens underfoot. No one talks about you. Not out loud, but they remember. The townsfolk sweep ashes without meeting each other's eyes. A few mothers keep their daughters in after sundown now. One boy draws figures in the dirt that look suspiciously like the stake. The priest's sermons seem louder, more desperate, like he's trying to convince himself that what happened was holy. The Inquisitor has left town. On to the next case. The next threat. He'll quote scripture, sip warm ale, and file your confession into another dusty archive. But in the cracks of the town's silence, something strange grows. Regret, doubt, that gnawing feeling that maybe they didn't stop evil. Maybe they fed it. It's happened before. In the early 18th century, decades after the worst of the hunts had passed, communities began quietly issuing apologies. A few rare trials were overturned posthumously. Stones were removed from graves. Names were cleared, not because the dead asked, but because the living couldn't stand the weight of what they'd done. There's even a fringe account of a village in Switzerland that held a secret mass every year for the women they'd burned. Never recorded in any official ledger, just whispered prayers, lit candles, and a promise, never again. But it did happen again, and again, and again. Because witch hunts aren't about witches, they're about fear, and fear always finds a new disguise. Your ashes settle into the soil, mix with roots, drift into the breeze. The herbs you used to gather still grow in the fields. The moss still climbs the trees. The world moves on, but it remembers, in ways it doesn't always understand. And in quiet corners of future history, someone lights a candle, not for the witch, for the woman, for the silence, for the truth that came too late. And now, it's over. The fire has cooled. The voices have faded. The shadows that once danced on prison walls have dissolved into the soft hush of sleep. You're far from that crowded square, from the torchlight, from the cruel machinery of fear. Here, there are no ropes, no judges, no whispered lies passed in alleyways, just the rhythm of your breath, steady and slow, like waves against a distant shore. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your fingers curl gently. The world you've just traveled through was harsh, yes, but you made it through, step by quiet step. And though it may have ended in smoke, your story lingers like the scent of something remembered, not as a warning, but as a whisper. That truth is often quieter than panic. That kindness can survive even in the darkest corners of history. Now let the last flickers of flame fade from your thoughts. Imagine a sky free of ash, wide and open. The kind of sky where nothing burns. The wind outside is soft. The night is calm. You're safe now, wrapped in stillness. Drift deeper, sleep well, and I'll see you in the next story.